Hello and welcome to my video analysis of my round 11 game. It was Wales versus Jordan, and they significantly outrated us on 3 of the 4 boards. They, for some reason, put a 2100 on top board. I'm probably playing higher than his grade. One thing that we noticed is that they hadn't actually had a good tournament at all, so we knew that we had chances even though we were outrated. That being said, it was still going to be quite difficult. I was playing an IM. His name was Rd11 Ahmad, and he was already losing like 40 points or something before the game. So I knew I stood a chance. I had a look beforehand, and this is how my game went. I knew it was going to be a King's Indian. I guess one thing to also say is that I knew that if I win, then I actually get the FIDE Master title for having 65%. I would have 6.5 out of 10 if I win. So I was going to be playing for the win in this game at all costs. I decided to play F3, which is the same as variation, something that I've played quite a lot when I was younger. I do mix it up a little bit with different variations that I play against the King's Indian. But ultimately I feel quite confident against the opening. I seem to get quite like a space advantage, which is what white has with all these pawns in the centre. So I'm very comfortable with this opening at the moment. And here he decides to be a little bit different than the norm. I guess he's trying to get me out of any opening prep that I might have gone into, and he plays b6. Now it is a line, but when he played it, I was very happy. He's basically saying I'm going to play something a little bit offbeat, and I was very happy to see this because I don't want to go down long lines of theory with him. He's probably going to know that better than me, but b6, it's not really normal in this line. I think critical is probably either c5 or e5 instead, after castling, of course. But yeah, he decides to mix it up and go b6, so I was very happy with him playing this move, and it was quite nice. Play bishop b3, bishop b7, and then now I had a bit of a dilemma. Do I go bishop d3 first, or do I, which is what I eventually do, was play knight ge2 first. The reason why I didn't go bishop b3 is just because after knight here, let's just say knight here, and then c5, d5, knight e5, he hits my bishop with tempo, and if I don't want to lose, I'm going to have to let him take it, which may be a good thing because my bishop is hemmed in by the same colour of these pawns, so maybe I want to lose this bishop, and I'm happy to. However, sometimes you can find that with the absence of that bishop, it can actually cost you the game. So I was just like, well, I'll just delay developing that piece for now, because sometimes it might be needed to defend g2 or defend the king side in some way. I also saw lines where it was needed on e2 to cover the g4 square, so that I can play an eventual f4 if he's got a knight on this square. I guess I'll just show what that looks like. So say I do this move, c5, d5. I'm just going to do a knight bd7, and then after bishop b2, if he goes knight e5 now, then when I play f4, I'm covering this square, so his knight can't jump in to this square. It's going to get taken, so he's going to have to go backwards. So this is the kind of pawn structure and where my bishops probably want to be, if I can get them there. But anyway, I decided to go with the knight first, and in hindsight, actually, I think both of them were probably a mistake. I should probably just play queen d2, because I don't need to commit either of them yet. And I didn't play queen d2 just by mistake, because I kind of had visions of my queen coming out to a4 check or b3 after maybe a possible c5. I think I was just kind of dreaming there a little bit of what it could happen, and I'll show you why this is important in a couple of moves' time. So he plays knight bd7. I play my knight out to g3. So now I can develop my bishop if I want to. Knight on g3 is quite good because it stops the eventual push f5, which is usually teamed with e5 as well at the same time. So I'm going to have a real grip on this f5 square to stop him breaking out. And he plays h5. And I'm like, okay, I know that there's lines where they go c5, white plays d5, and then this knight comes into this square as well. But I thought with b6 and bishop b7 inserted, this can't be as good for him. However, I was completely wrong and completely missed the point of what was actually going on. Because now after I play bishop e2, because I guess after h4, I don't really want to put my knight back to e2, where it came from, just because I provoked h5, h4. h4, I want to put my knight back to f1, comes around to d2, and then even to b3 if I want to. But now he just goes e5. I respond, I want the centre closed with d5, and then he plays bishop h6. And I was just like, oh no, I completely forgot about this idea. And if my queen was on d2, then this wouldn't happen because I could just take the bishop and win a piece. And it just completely slipped my mind that this was a perfectly reasonable way for black to play the game. And this is the bishop that I don't want to lose because all my pawns are on white squares, and this is my dark squared bishop, so this is a good trade for him. And actually after this move, he's the one really that's playing for the win. I can't really do too much, and I've got to be very, very careful. I've got to really stop any kind of play, and I'm kind of in not going for the draw mode, but let's try and make my position very solid at the moment. So I play the move g4, and if he takes on passant, I can take back with the pawn, and now my rook's pinning his bishop to the other rook, so I'll be very happy if he did that. But he's not going to do that, so he takes my bishop, knight takes, and now of course you can't do en passant because well, it's over, I can only do it the move afterwards. But notice how that this pawn, this knight, and this pawn are all on this f5 square, so his break is f5. If you can get f5 in favourable circumstances to him, he will probably go on to win this game. Because there's no breaks over on the other side of the board, I can't actually get through on the queen side unless I play it really, really slowly. So if, say, for example, I do something like b4, let's see, his next move was knight h7. If I do something like b4 now, I've got to be careful that he doesn't just go a5 at a perfect moment. And even then, maybe he does nothing. And actually, am I actually threatening to play c5 and try and break open that way? Probably not, to be honest. If I ever go a4, I'm going to do a different move for him now. Let's do king f8. If I ever go a4, he just plays a5. And now I've got to do something with this pawn, and then this knight's coming to c5. So I'm completely stuck over here. I have to play for c5. But he's got too much on it, and because I don't have my dark squared bishop anymore, I can't support it with the bishop. So I'm going to have to eventually put maybe a knight to this square, this knight to this square, and then play c5 eventually. However, by the time I move my knights to those squares, f5 is going to come in, so it's going to be far too quick for me. So his plan's basically a lot faster than mine. So I have to really kind of just, unfortunately at this point, I kind of sucked it up and was just like, yeah, I'm probably not going to win this game because he's with the dark squared bishops off, he's got all the play now. He can just move around and around and around until he's ready to play f5 if he wants to try and win the game. I castle now, and the reason why I castle is because if I don't, what he's going to do is going to reroute this knight on h7 to this f4 square, and he's going to do that by coming to g5 and then to h3. But he's also got quite nice ideas of playing queen to f6 and queen to f4. So if I play, say, for example, the move h3 here, he goes queen f6, and then it gets a little bit difficult for what I'm meant to do now, because if I stop his queen coming into this square on f4 by playing something like knight g2, then maybe he's just got maybe just knight g5, just attacking a pawn, and maybe he can even play knight c5 afterwards, and maybe sack a knight on e4. There's quite a few things. He can maybe even go to g5 with his queen. And he's just making a little bit more progress. My pieces on my rook on h1 and my knight on g2 are doing defensive work, and I don't really want them to be on those positions, especially my rook supporting this pawn, because if his queen ever gets to this square, it's going to come into g3, and that's going to be really, really tricky for me to defend. And I'll probably have to play queen d2 and swap queens, but this is not the kind of pawn structure that I was after. So I decided to castle, because now after knight g5 I play king g2. And the idea being, if he ever does play h3 check, I'm just going to retreat my king, and this pawn at some point I'd be able to win, and that was my plan, to try and hopefully play h3, and then maybe I could play rook g1, rook g3, bishop f1, and eventually pick it off, and that could be the only way that I could go forward. He continues, he gets his king safe first, or safe-ish, he goes king f8. I play my queen to d2 because my queen's trying to replace my dark squared bishop that I've lost. King g7, and then I play b3. And I think this move b3 actually wins me the game. And you're thinking, hang on a minute, how on earth does b3 win you the game? Well, I'm basically saying to him, you beat me, He's higher graded than me by 170 points. He knows he's got a better position because he's swapped off the dark squared bishops. He knows he's the only one with a real break, which is f5. I've got no play. So he's got to go for the win in these circumstances. He hasn't had a good tournament already, so he really does want to beat me. He doesn't want to get a draw with me because that will bring his rating down again. So he goes queen e7. I play knight c2. Okay, I'm taking off my f5 hold, but I needed to do something constructive. And I've kind of got a little, just looking at ideas like this, knight b5, knight b4, just in case there's anything sneaky that I can do. He plays rook behind the pawn. I thought, great. Queen to e3, bishop to c8, and now I can play b4, because beforehand he had a5 and maybe the a file could come open and he might be able to use that as well as f5, whereas now with his rook on f8, he's never going to play a5 now, because I could probably take it and maybe queen a7 and then just win some pawns. And to my surprise here, he thought, right, I've got to go for the win, and he played f5, and I was just like, great. Because I guess from his point of view, he wasn't looking at ways that I could win the game. He was just looking at ways that he could win the game. If I wanted a draw here, what I could do is actually just do nothing and just leave it. Because the best thing that he can do is, suppose I do like a move, maybe not h3 is the best one, but I'm just going to do it to show. What's he going to do is he's going to take here. Whichever way he takes, I'll take back. If he pushes on, it's blocked up even more. And he can swap rooks a few times, and he might be able to get his queen onto this f4 square if both pairs of rooks are swapped off. But then, if I just do nothing again, what does he do? He can swap queens, knight takes, and it's going to be a very long ending. In which case, maybe I might be able to get c5 in that case, or a4, a5 perhaps. And I've always got this little move, knight b5, attacking 2 pawns. So what does he do? So this was my backup plan. My plan B was to do nothing and ask him how is he going to beat me. But I know that I can take the pawn. He takes back, and now I play f4. And all of a sudden, it goes from him trying to win the game to he's in absolute desperate trouble right now, because his king's in the centre of all of this. My king might be, but my king's got a nice hiding square on h1. His king hasn't got that. All these pawns are getting swapped off. The pawn is pinned from the queen. And I think maybe best might be a knight retreat, but he ended up playing knight e4, and this made it very easy for me, because I just do knight takes knight. This doesn't work because I can just go queen d4 check, and then when he blocks it, well, actually no, if he moves his king, then I've just got knight c3 and my knight's defending the bishop. So we can just block it with a knight, and then I'll just move my knight and I'm a piece up. Maybe this was the better idea for him though. I mean, I'd probably take the pawn here. But he takes back, and then I just play f5. And all of a sudden, my position is completely winning from here on in. Because he can't do anything. I've got this bishop's completely blocked in by my pawns. I'm just going to consolidate my position. I'm no rush whatsoever to take this pawn. I don't want to take it, because if I take it, he might be able to move this one forward at some point and then get some space, a good square for his knight, and get some counterplay on the dark square. So I'm not taking these pawns. I'm just going to block them. And I can just eventually push these pawns forwards. I think what he needs to do now is just try and position his pieces on these dark squares here to gain control over them, and try and do a dark square blockade. And I'd have to reroute my knight to here, to here, to here, to here, to finally take the pawn before I had some sort of control over those dark squares. And I probably would still win the game, but it would be a lot longer. But he kind of goes into, kind of not falls apart, but he just kind of keeps giving me extra things to do. So he plays h3 check. King goes back to that hole I was talking about earlier, and then he plays queen h4, and I just don't really know what he's doing. I play rook g1. I'm just going to bring my rooks behind both my pawns. Rook g8, which is a strange move, because now I just bring my rook forward to attack his pawn. This pawn that we mentioned earlier, it was obviously too tempting for him, and I think he was kind of trying to make up some counterplay. But the problem for him now is that if he plays his rook back, he's kind of accepting that he's just made a mistake. And maybe his pride got in the way. I think actually just defending the pawn might be a good idea. Yes, I have to play bishop f1, but maybe I'll leave the g4 pawn unguarded. So yeah, he played king f6, rook takes pawn, and his queen's got to go to g5. and then rook check first of all to drive the king back. King to e7, and then queen takes queen, rook takes queen, and knight e3. Notice how it's, if I play a move like h4 too soon, his rook goes back, and then if, say, I play knight e3, there's a little trick by him. You can just play rook here. And you've got rook takes h8, rook takes h8, and he's on this h4 pawn, and it's just a little bit annoying for me. I can play h5, and it's probably still winning, but I don't really want to do this with the... He might be able to get a blockade on the dark squares there. And if I play knight g2, then my knight's being taken away to defend one pawn, when beforehand on this square here, it's defending 1, 2, 3, 4 pawns. So I don't want to move it away. And I'm in no hurry, so that's why here I played knight e3. There's no rush with h4, I just need to play it slowly. The position is completely winning, he's got nothing to do, he's got no ideas whatsoever. So he plays his rook back, and I just play it simply, put a rook behind the pawn. He plays b5, and basically at this point I think he's given up. He's just trying to get some counterplay from somewhere, but again he makes it easy for me because I can just take this pawn. And the problem is, after knight b6, and you think he might be ganging up on this one, I just play rook to c1, and now instead of pushing these pawns on the king side, I'm now attacking this c7 pawn. It's quite awkward for him to defend it. So he plays king d8, and I attack it again with this rook, and now he's going to block me. And so all of a sudden, unless he swaps rooks, which he doesn't want to do because then my king will just marshal these pawns down the board, he's got no other plan at all. And he was getting towards time trouble at this point, so I knew that all I needed to do was keep it simple. Played h3, knight c8, king h2. I mean, I've just played h3 and king h2 just because I can. I've got all the time in the world. There's no constructive plan for him at all. Plays knight e7. I see another weakness, rook c3. So now my rook's going to come across to this a3 square and set this pawn, and he could go back to c8, but I think he really wanted it over. So he played bishop c8, rook a7, bishop b7, and I've calculated this all out. Doesn't matter what he takes with, I'm going to be winning in some way. So if he does bishop takes pawn, I can do rook takes knights. Although it says it's mate if I just do knight takes bishop in so many moves. Of course, he can't do knight takes knight because of rook a8 mate. Yeah, of course. So that's quite funny. So he does knight takes pawn, do rook takes bishop, and I guess he could do king c8 now, but I just play knight takes knight, king takes rook, rook takes pawn check, and then I march these pawns up the board, and then my king will support these pawns, and he's got nothing to do. Look at how my knight is just so beautifully positioned, holding up all three of his central pawns. However, he decided to take my knight, and I ended up checkmating him at the end to put him out of his misery. He could have had a draw if he hadn't have gone for the win. I guess I got a little bit lucky, but psychology plays a massive part in chess about whether you're playing for the win or the draw, or whether you're playing just the position and the best moves that you can find. So yeah, I was very happy. I've managed to make 6.5 out of 10, which gets me my FIDE Master title. I don't actually quite know how to get that yet, so I'll hopefully be told tonight. But the great thing is well, we beat the team. So Alan beat 2400 on the bottom board with a fine game, and I've just seen that Carl's won as well on top board. I think he was probably a bit behind earlier on, but absolutely fantastic. We beat Jordan 3-1, which is probably our best result in round 11 out of 11 in the tournament. So I'm looking forward to be back. Thank you very much for watching. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, and yeah, Blackburn out.